Okay, so I've made quite a lot of planes. Now they're all cool, but there's one problem with them all. They don't drop torpedoes, so today we're making a torpedo bomber. Now I've never really made anything like it. When I tried to, it doesn't really go well. So anyway, let's start. So obviously first I'm going to start the plane, since that's pretty important. This is basically going to be a cylinder with a seat on it, and some thrusters in the end. Now I find it quite hard to make the shape of the actual plane like body, but it's not too hard in the end. The hardest part was definitely the tail, since I have a lot of trouble making the actual tail fin, and also just making it angle properly, so I just can't get it right. Eventually, it did look okay, and I added the tail. I'm not going to say I'm proud of it, but it doesn't look too bad. So now I'm working on the wing. Now the wing isn't too complicated, it's just too thick and it has some made out of cardboard. Now, it doesn't look too bad either, but for now I'm only going to be working on one. After I'd finished, I basically made like another kind of wing, except I'm actually going to make like a double plane. I don't know what they're actually called, but it's basically going to have two fuselages, well, and like around three wings. Now I did have to copy the other wing over, which was a bit of a pain, but it wasn't too bad since I did have to mirror it. But anyway, the mirroring process did take quite a while, but again, it wasn't too hard. I also got rid of the cockpit on one of them to make it look slightly better. Then, before we do anything else, I just had to do one thing, an ejector seat. Now, I'm probably never going to use it, but I've actually added ejector seats to lots of cars, but never really planes. I've never really thought to add them, and then it was too late when I actually did think about it. So let's make it. Now, this was going to be surprisingly quite hard to make since it's actually in quite a small area. Now, what I was going to do was basically make it so it just ejects the top of the cockpit off and just ejects you out, and I think I've almost got it right. As you can see, it worked pretty well. I don't know if it'll work at high speeds, but anyway. So, after doing that, I actually started working on making the plane move. So the first step, before we make this thing fly, is I'm going to make a W and S converter. This basically means when we press W and S, it'll basically activate different sensors, which means we can connect stuff to them. So this is basically going to be for the pitch. So W will pitch us down and S will pitch us up. Now I'm going to do this before I add thrusters in, because it's actually going to do this by controlling, well, the thrusters in the front and the back. So when we press W, it'll basically pulse the thrusters in the front, which basically means that, well, pitch downwards. Now the only problem with this is it does use quite a lot of engines, but it doesn't matter since you've got kind of a bit of space in there. Now I just did some logic to actually pulse the thrusters, and it actually wasn't going too bad. Now I did have to repeat this around twice, but it doesn't matter too much. And you can actually see it work. Since I press W, it is the we don't tilt back so much. Now it doesn't work the best right now. Of course, it doesn't have any glitches, and also it's just not very balanced since one side's a lot heavier than the other. But anyway, so now I started working on the roll. Now this is basically just going to work by basically having thrusters on both sides and basically turning them opposite directions, and it should make us roll. And as you can see, it kind of works. I did add a suspension glitch, as you can see, and the roll isn't very strong, but it's okay. Now the suspension glitch was basically crucial to make this thing actually like fly properly, since it's kind of small and also it's just very unpredictable. Now this thing actually did fly okay. It wasn't the best, but it flew okay. I did add a suspension glitch to basically make this thing roll better, but it actually works pretty good now. There was some balancing to do by adding concrete, but it wasn't too hard since we were turning quite a bit to the left when we actually flew, which wasn't very good. And this thing flies okay. The roll is still pretty stiff, but it actually does fly okay. The only problem is you can't pitch when you're turning the thrust off, so it's kind of a pain to control, but not too bad. Now, the plane was actually pretty close to being done, I've got to say. It was actually flying pretty well and pretty easy to fly. So yeah, we need to start on the torpedo pretty soon, but I was just having fun flying this thing around. It was pretty bad and not very maneuverable. It was quite a lot of fun. It didn't fly very naturally either, but I added spud guns and that kind of made it better. Then I started working on the torpedo. Now, this was quite hard, so I wanted this thing to be relatively accurate, but this thing just wasn't going to be accurate. Like, this thing just kept turning while after we fired it, and I didn't start on the actual, like, mechanism to actually make it go off. Now, the mechanism was meant to be so that when the torpedo couldn't detect the plane above it, it would activate the thrusters, and also the mechanism to make it so if you hit anything, but it will explode. Now, I didn't know if this system would actually work because I wasn't really going to use this one because it wasn't very good. It always went to the side a bit, and that just wasn't very good. As you can see, it goes right off to the side. So then I basically made another design. Now, this design was very different. It was going to be based on a 45-degree angle, which basically meant that, I don't know, it was just a lot more stable. It definitely worked a lot better, and it was actually pretty good. So I did add some spud guns, and then I basically did this logic. Now this wasn't too hard to use, and this had a bit of a better like activation mechanism. Basically, if I plugged in just a normal logic gate into one of these NOR gates, it basically meant that when the logic gate wasn't there, it basically activated everything. So if you detached it from the actual plane, it basically activated everything, which is a lot better method than using sensors. Now this thing lied a lot better in the water and also pretty accurate. To activate it at the moment, all I need to do is, well, get rid of the bubble block at the end and the logic gate will fall off. But anyway, as you can see, it's relatively accurate. Goes to the side a bit, but it's a lot better than the other design. It's also odd whip, so it's very easy to attach to the plane, and I attached it to the plane. Now the plane can't fly right now because of how heavy it is, so we need to add some thrusters to help with that. And now this thing actually works pretty well. It does pitch down quite a bit, but there's nothing I can really do to stop it, so I'm just going to let it go. So let's test this thing out. Now this thing's pretty good. It is quite hard to hit stuff since I couldn't hit this really. I was close, but it was too small, so I missed. Instead I hit my massive cargo plane, which is absolutely massive, and I hit the tail. Now this would have done quite a bit of damage because there's lots of thrust in the tail, but it hardly dented the actual cargo ship. So yeah, this thing's basically done. I had quite a lot of fun making this, and it's actually quite satisfying to see your torpedo hit targets. I definitely quite enjoyed using it, but yeah. So this thing's actually pretty good. It's pretty accurate and quite fun to use, so yeah. Bye!